In the small town of Greenwood, a mystery that had puzzled residents for over a decade was about to unravel in the most unexpected way. Nathan, who had disappeared as a 7-year-old boy, walked out of the woods that edged the town, now a teenager with the scars of survival etched into his face. His return was as sudden as his disappearance, leaving the community in shock and disbelief. Nathan wasn't alone, his eyes hinting at untold stories of survival and solitude. The question on everyone's lips was what had happened to him during those lost years. But as Nathan finally spoke, it became clear that the woods had kept more secrets than just his whereabouts. But before we start our story, smash the like button, make sure to subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you won't miss any new stories. Jenny lit the small candle beside the picture of her son. She picked up the picture frame and pressed a soft kiss to the chubby cheeks like she had done every day for the past 11 years. It had been exactly 11 years since she'd seen Nathan. Today was the anniversary of the day he'd disappeared. She could still remember it like it was yesterday. Nathan had woken up early, as he always did on the morning of his birthday. He'd entered Jenny's room excitedly, jumping on her bed and giggling and yelling as he urged her to wake up. She'd made him his favorite breakfast, pancakes drenched in maple syrup, and had given him a few of the smaller gifts she had bought him. The biggest one stood in the middle of the living room, waiting to be opened when Nathan came home from school. To this day, the gift has not been unwrapped. Jenny had gone over the details many times over the years, searching for something she may have missed, a clue, a direction, anything that might lead to her missing boy. She had dressed him in his superhero outfit and dropped him off at school with a kiss and the promise that he was allowed to open his gift when he came home, only to never see him again. There hadn't been a single sign in the following days either. The police and the search parties, they didn't find anything, and eventually they stopped looking. In the years that followed, Jenny had torn through her house in the hopes of finding a shred of evidence. She had hired several private investigators and had even gone to a mystic. When she first heard the whispers going around town that a young man had been spotted at the edge of the woods, she didn't even think it could be her son. Then the police officers rang her doorbell. "Ma'am," one of the officers called. Jenny opened the door with shaking hands. "We think we've found your son." The boy Jenny had known had been a bright, talkative child. He had sparkling eyes full of mischief and told stories of the greatest fantasies. The young man in front of her now had a dull look in his eyes and hadn't spoken a word to her. To nobody, the officers had told her on the way to the police station. Jenny hadn't dared to get her hopes up, didn't dare to imagine what it would be like to reunite with her son. It was Nathan sitting here in front of her, and yet it wasn't. Nathan, the detective had told Jenny, had walked out of the woods at the edge of the town somewhere around 3 in the afternoon. Ironically, it was around the same time anyone had last seen him all those years ago. They'd asked him if he was all right, if he needed help, and who he was. But Nathan hadn't spoken a word. "Nathan," Jenny breathed, her eyes taking in her boy's changed face. It wasn't just that he'd aged. His face was riddled with scars, both small and large. It brought tears to Jenny's eyes. The young man in front of her gave no indication that he'd heard her. Then it was a blur. People filed in to attach strange machines to her son. Several therapists had come and gone from the interrogation room to ask him question after question. Nathan hadn't said a word, had simply stared at his mother when they'd probed him with needles. Finally, the police had granted Jenny's wish to be alone with her son. "He might be violent," they'd argued. "He won't hurt me," Jenny had answered. "He is my son." "Do you remember, Nath?" Jenny started, tears flowing freely down her cheeks now. Carefully, as not to spook him, she reached for his hand. Jenny looked at their intertwined hands. His hand was so much bigger than it was 11 years ago, her own now smaller than his. In the quiet room, Nathan's voice suddenly pierces the air. "Mom," he croaks, rough and unfamiliar. Jenny's tears double, each drop heavy with emotion. He offers nothing more, his voice retreating as quickly as it had appeared. Hearing Nathan's voice, police officers flood back in, their presence heavy and immediate. They fire off questions, each one sharp and demanding. "What happened? Where have you been? Nathan, overwhelmed by the sudden barrage, retreats into silence once more. His eyes flicker to Jenny, searching for solace in the chaos. Jenny stands. Jenny turns back to Nathan, her stance relaxed yet protective. In the regained quiet, Jenny leans closer to Nathan. "It's just us now," she murmurs, her voice a soothing balm against the room's cold edges. The contrast between their intimate moment and the sterile room is stark, highlighting the depth of their connection. Jenny's hand movements become more deliberate, tracing patterns of reassurance on Nathan's hand. Nathan's response is subtle, a slight easing of tension, but it's there. Jenny's eyes light up as she shares, "It's your birthday today." Her voice carries a warmth, promising a return to their special morning tradition, pancakes drenched in maple syrup. The mention of this small ritual seems to bridge the years lost between them, offering a glimpse of normalcy and the comfort of old routines amidst the uncertainty of their current situation. Nathan's reaction to the mention of pancakes is subtle but profound. A small, fleeting smile crosses his face, a glimpse of the child Jenny once knew. When he says "Mom," the word is hoarse from disuse but carries an echo of recognition. His next words, "I got lost," are simple but heavy. Motivated by this fragile reconnection, Jenny decides to make his favorite pancakes, a symbolic act of love and an attempt to reawaken their shared past. With a mixture of resolve and hope, Jenny convinces the officers to let Nathan return home with her. The car ride is quiet, the air thick with tension, as Nathan stares out, disconnected. Once home, Jenny immerses herself in making pancakes. Their fragile peace is shattered by the arrival of a police officer requesting to speak with Jenny. Nathan instinctively reaches for her hand, his eyes wide with fear of another separation. Jenny stands protectively near Nathan, declaring, "I'm not leaving him." Her voice is steady, her stance resolute. She refuses to be separated from her son again. The officer reveals unexpected news. Someone else has emerged from the woods asking for Nathan. Confusion floods Jenny's mind. Nathan grips her hand tighter, the word "Mom" murmured repeatedly like a shield. The officer's discomfort reveals how extraordinary the situation is. Jenny senses her son's deepening fear as he shakes his head, overwhelmed by whatever this new development might mean. The tension spikes when a man arrives demanding to see Nathan. His presence sends a wave of unease through the room. Raised voices escalate outside. A scuffle breaks out, the noise slicing through the tense air inside. Suddenly, a voice, familiar yet strange, pierces through the turmoil. The voice, belonging to someone from a past long buried, sends a shockwave through the room. Jenny and Nathan exchange a glance, a silent recognition of its weight in their lives. "Jack?" Jenny's whisper is heavy with disbelief and lingering hope. The name, suspended in the air, connects a fractured past to the present. A man appears, weathered and worn, yet with eyes that soften upon seeing them. Despite his rugged appearance, something gentle lingers in his gaze. He steps into the home he once knew, and in that moment, the line between past and present blurs. Nathan's voice breaks the silence. "Dad," Jenny echoes. "Jack," her tone mixing shock and recognition. The officer pauses, sensing the gravity of the reunion. This exchange redefines everything, drawing the once scattered family into a single emotional thread. Jack's identity is now clear: husband to Jenny, father to Nathan. The weight of their shared disappearance begins to lift as truths come to light. Their absence, once a mystery, begins to take shape through a long-withheld story. Jack recounts a tale of unintended exile. What began as a child's search for his father became a harrowing chronicle of survival. Their time in the wilderness forged an unspoken bond, each hardship binding them tighter. For years, Jack and Nathan wandered, unaware of their true relationship. In the vast isolation of forests and mountains, they became companions, united by necessity. The elements were unforgiving, but they endured, living on instinct and determination. The turning point came when Nathan found a worn family photo buried in Jack's belongings. Though he didn't understand the full context, it awakened something long dormant, the memory of a mother. Fueled by longing, he began a treacherous journey back. Nathan shares how he lost his way once more while trying to return. Days passed in solitude, his survival guided by instinct and the stars. Injured and starving, he pressed on, driven by the blurry image of home. Now surrounded by his parents and the officers, Nathan details his ordeal: the fall, the hunger, the fear. His words are quiet, but each one bears the weight of experience. Jenny listens through tears. Jack watches, his expression one of pain and awe. With the room quiet, Jack begins his own confession. He explains how he became lost and, after failed attempts to return, accepted his fate. Building a cabin gave him purpose, a makeshift home in a world that had forgotten him. He speaks of the day he found a scared boy in the woods. Unaware it was his own son, Jack took the child in, teaching him to survive. They formed a small, silent family bound by instinct rather than knowledge. Everything changed when Nathan vanished and Jack found the family photo. It shattered his constructed world. The boy he'd raised was his son. Realizing this, Jack left the woods and followed the trail, hoping to find him. That trail led him home, to the doorstep he'd once called his own. With each step, memories returned, and so did a deep longing to reunite with the life he'd left behind. Their reunion is raw and overwhelming. Tears flow freely as their stories, once fragmented, merge into a shared narrative of loss, resilience, and rediscovery. The police mention health checks, but the family is lost in the moment. As they sit down together, Nathan finally opens his long-awaited gift. The scent of pancakes fills the room, a simple gesture that now represents everything: return, love, and the first step toward healing.